Please welcome Mike Hanley.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the super important right after lunch time slot at GitHub Universe. So, it's after lunch. Did everybody have a good bite to eat, I hope? Yes? Okay, lots of yeses. All right. If you are here to hear about security on GitHub, stand up for me for just a second. All right, excellent. Great job. All right, I had to make sure we start off with a little movement. All right, go ahead and have a seat. And again, thanks for being here. So again, I'm Mike Hanley. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at GitHub, and I'm so pleased to be here with all of you at the 10th GitHub Universe. And part of the reason I'm so excited to be here is because we are just in a fantastic, remarkable new era for developers. And with the magic of AI, a lot of which you've heard about in the last few days, we're building these transformative new experiences like GitHub Copilot Workspace that are already completely redefining how developers are building software today. And not only are developers like yourselves telling us that you're more productive, you're also telling us that you're happier. And we're making it easier than ever for developers to code things more securely. And this is pretty profound if you think about it, because we've finally reached this really important critical state where security has just become synonymous with software development. We're enhancing developer productivity without the less than desirable friction that we often experience with some of the more legacy approaches to how people do security. And in our reality at GitHub, where I think you could say the threat landscape is more dynamic than ever, it's just essential that security be foundational to literally everything that we do at GitHub to safeguard our customers and the open source communities that are depending on us. Now, as you might imagine, the sheer size and scale of something like GitHub makes security a pretty unique set of challenges. So it should be really no surprise that we see lots of interesting activity as a result of that. For example, today, there are now 518 million repositories on GitHub. And that's a 25% increase in the number of repos from just about a year ago. So you could say that everybody's been pretty busy on GitHub in the last year. We've also seen nearly 1.5 billion pull requests merged. That's a 32% increase in just the last 12 months. And around the whole globe, we process about 7.1 billion, with a B, API requests every single day. So that's an average, if you do the math, of about 84,000 requests per second. And that's with peaks that go 2 to 3 times higher than that. But let's be honest, building security is hard, no matter the size or shape of your organization. And this is due in part to the fact that security is so often viewed and experienced as an afterthought. See some nodding heads in that. It's so frequently just bolted on at the end of the process. And that's the part where it's the hardest, most expensive, least effective place to make good security decisions. But what I've found in 20 plus years in security is that good security starts with what's right for the developer. And that's why security and engineering live under the same roof at GitHub, led by me as the CTO. And it's putting the engineering and the security teams side by side, making sure that security is built into every single thing that we do at the start, not bolted on later, helps us make sure that our developers are safe and secure throughout the entire software development lifecycle at GitHub. Now, in this job, I'm really fortunate that I get to spend a lot of time with developers. I've had a chance to talk to some of you during the course of the last few days here. But I get to spend time with open source communities, with our incredible developers inside GitHub, and of course with a lot of our customers. And what do you think is the most common question that I get asked? It's not, how do GitHubbers stay in such great shape? We do lots of pull requests, but not lots of pull-ups. That's good. That's my one dad fitness joke for the time. The actual question that we get is, how does GitHub secure GitHub? This comes up in literally every single conversation that I have. How do we do that and scale how we build software securely? And I love this question because in security, it's so important that we take the time to actually have these conversations and share what best practices work for us, what's not working, and treating security really as a team sport and not as a trade secret. And I think a big part of making that possible is a good security culture. And in fact, the GitHubbers in the room or on the live stream will tell you that pretty much every chance I get, I will ask everyone to raise your hand if you're on the security team. That's how you can pick out the Hubbers in the audience right now, because they raised their hands. To really reinforce that I'm counting on everybody, not just in engineering, everybody, to do their part to help protect GitHub. So today, the goal of this talk is really to demystify some of the process of how GitHub actually scales security across our entire organization. And to walk you through this, I'm going to lean on the GitHub flow, at least as we use it, which is the deploy and then merge model. And that's going to share as a little bit of a roadmap as we walk you through some examples here. Obviously, I can't cover everything in the next 40 minutes, but my goal is that you'll leave here with a better understanding of just some of the tools and processes that can help you dramatically improve your own security posture with how you're building on GitHub. As you might imagine, AI is a big piece of this. And I want to show you how we're using AI to actually reshape the future of software development experiences with these AI-native security experiences that really can help us actually eradicate software vulnerabilities at scale in addition to preventing them from being written in the first place. I'm also going to show you a little bit about how AI is bringing security expertise to every single developer in your organization in a way that is easy to use. We're really trying to radically transform this whole term of shift security left. So I want to dive in, starting with how you bring your own ideas to code. Now for us, and probably just about every other developer, that process starts with working in the editor. Most GitHubbers are working off individual branches and repositories associated with the services that their team own every single day. And also here at GitHub, pretty much all of our development at this point happens in GitHub code spaces. And that lets us work in a cloud developer environment that abstracts away some of the more traditional like endpoint security related concerns where you might think about side channel attacks on the actually locally stored code on the endpoint. And as a rule, we've got multiple security checkpoints and controls that cover really every step of the way to make sure that all of our security standards and also, more importantly, the expectations of all of our customers consistently get met in a way that makes for a great developer experience. And that process really makes sure that we've got a high bar for security and compliance, which is more critical than ever, but also make sure that it's a great experience day in and day out to be building GitHub on GitHub. Now, to show you a little bit more about how we do this at scale, I'd like to welcome Whitney Imura to the stage, who leads our code quality engineering team.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Mike, for the introduction. My name is Whitney Imura, and I'm a Senior Director of Engineering at GitHub, where I'm responsible for a range of products that power our core GitHub experience. If you've ever used things like Git, run an enterprise server instance, or tackled a migration to GitHub, you've used a product that I've had my hand in. Now, just a couple weeks ago, I started managing our pull request teams. And as part of wanting to understand what it's like to be a developer on this team, I decided to take a backlog ticket item and work on it as part of my onboarding journey. Now, if you're an individual contributor in the room, you might be getting nervous flashbacks thinking about the last time someone in your management chain tried to contribute code. But I'm here to show you all of the great features that GitHub has that helps everyone, whether you're a manager or an individual contributor, bring an idea to code. So let's jump into my workflow right here on stage at Universe. All right, so like most developers, my workflow starts by opening up Visual Studio Code running in a code space and taking a look at our repository. So I've got VS Code up and running, and it's running our GitHub repo. Hubbers internally like to call this the monolith. And this really is what powers most of what you see when you go to GitHub. The ticket that I decided to pick up wants me to look at my review comment component, which I've got up here, and sanitize my review comments that are user-generated content. Sanitization of user-generated content is really important because user-generated content can be risky, potentially exposing us to things like cross-site scripting attacks. Instead of writing this myself, I'm going to ask Copilot to make sure that this doesn't happen. I've highlighted my code, and I'm going to click this star here and modify using Copilot. And I can see Copilot jumping up right in line with my IDE. I'm going to ask it to do the sanitization, and here I can see it thinking, and it's starting to generate some code for me right in line with my IDE. If I scroll down, I can see that it's done the sanitization. This is pretty cool, right? Copilot just saved me time while ensuring our security best practices are built in. I'm feeling good about this. I've reviewed the code, so I'm going to go ahead and click Accept, and let's go ahead and push this up. I've opened up my terminal, and I'm going to go ahead and add in my changes, write my commit message, and go ahead and do my push. Oh no, I just got an error for rule violation. I can see that GitHub branch protection just prevented me from pushing directly to our default branch. This helps keep our code base stable, ensure code quality through things like checks and peer reviews, and protect our production environment from potentially risky changes. Branch rules are just one way that we ensure our critical branches are safeguarded. So let me go ahead and create my new branch and do my push again. I can see Git working in the background, and great, my push worked. Let's go ahead and head over to our browser. So here I've got the monolith currently up, and look at all of this awesome activity. 1,400 pull requests, over 30,000 branches, and well over 1.8 million commits. This really is the main repo that most of our developers work from. With all of this activity, to make sure that our developers are able to move fast and with confidence, we use controls like branch protection and a merge queue to help us ship quickly without violating our own engineering and security standards along the way. Before I open that pull request, though, let's take a quick look at a feature that I think you will love called repo rules. Repo rules are an evolution of branch protection and help keep all of our code safe and secure at scale. Here we can see all of the rule sets, or the collection of rules together, that are forced for the monolith. If I scroll down a little bit, I can see that I've got a rule set called test friction, which I'll talk about in one moment, but I can see that I've got rules that are applied at the organization level, which you get as being part of the GitHub Enterprise plans. Now if I scroll down, I can see that I've got my rule set called test friction. This rule set looks a little bit different than the others. It's got a different badge and a different icon than the others. These rules were configured by our own security and compliance teams, and they really help ensure that we're keeping our critical branches secure. As an admin on the repo, I can create my own custom rules, or I can source from others. Back to this rule set called test friction. Since we are in the process of rolling out these rules to internal developers, we currently have a few of our rules set to evaluate. This allows our rules to be run in what you can kind of think of as like a dry run mode, so that we can evaluate the rule to determine impact, so we can thoughtfully roll out our security controls while understanding the friction that developers might have once the rule is enabled. This means that our rules won't block pushes, but will be evaluated and flagged in our rule insights log, which we'll take a look at in a moment. We also have a feature that allows teams or GitHub apps to bypass a rule. Unlike branch protection, with repo rules, those in the bypass list do not need to have elevated permissions like admin on the repository. Now at GitHub, we know that bypasses are the exception, not the norm, but there are going to be scenarios where you're just going to need to break glass or let your automations run smoothly in order to get your work done. These bypasses are manual overrides that get logged in our insights for auditing later. Let's take a look at what this looks like in Rule Insights. Here we can see all of the activity that's happened on our monolith repo. And I can filter out these insights by a number of different dimensions. For managers and teams alike, this visibility into rule enforcement helps ensure accountability and provides a clear audit trail. It really helps us understand where rules might cause friction before we fully enforce them. This is a pretty cool feature to help enforce best security practices across an organization or an individual repo. If these rules look interesting to you, we publish our baseline rules in the open source Ruleset recipes repository, making them super easy to implement. Just download them, navigate to the rules page, and import these rules into your repository. With these easy-to-use rule sets, even complex security protocols become accessible to everyone, ensuring your projects, whether open source or enterprise level, follow best practices. It's a pretty simple step to creating a more secure development workflow, or you can even share your own. All right, now that we've had a chance to explore new features like repo rules, insights, and our open source rule set recipes, let's go ahead and create that pull request. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go ahead and click the Compare and Pull Request button, and I'm going to scroll down and create my pull request. And now that the PR is created, we can see our branch rules at work again, requiring additional approvals before I can merge. GitHub's secure by design approach is why we've built internal safeguards that prevent even our own teams from bypassing these rules. With features like Rulesets and Rule Insights, our compliance teams can evaluate and enforce safety standards across our repositories at scale. These features make it easy for developers to bring an idea to code safely, no matter whether you're an individual contributor or a manager. Now, while I wait for that review, I'll hand it back over to Mike to show you more features that GitHub has built in. Over to you, Mike.
All right, thanks, Whitney. And built-in tools like branch protection, repository rules, and Copilot really do highlight how GitHub has tools to internally and securely manage access to really our most important repos. I mean, you just saw the type GitHub 3 times, the github.com/GitHub repo where most of our monolith lives. And this is helping us to write more secure code and really set our teams up, again, to be safe and secure by default. Now, these are great tools, but of course, not every security challenge can be addressed by some of the capabilities that Whitney just showed you alone. So let's move into the pull request, where we're going to enforce additional security controls that are going to help us detect and remediate issues along the way. Things like getting code reviews, review and sign off from other hovers. Now, that next layer of security checks includes things like secret scanning, code scanning, and Dependabot. And what I'll note is, there's a lot of tools, especially if you're in this room and you're working in security, there's a lot of tools across the industry that help you find vulnerabilities. Clearly, we are big fans of GitHub code scanning, and we use that across every single repository inside our organizations. But my view is the real crown jewel, the real big opportunity now with AI is actually dramatically improving the experience of remediation, not just detection. So by leveraging Copilot Autofix, which you heard a little earlier today from Kyle about, our developers can actually assign an AI agent, who's really an expert in security, to go analyze code vulnerabilities, explain the problem that they find to the developer in natural language, and then offer helpful suggestions directly in the PR to fix the problem. And literally with the single push of a button, developers can just fix those vulnerabilities as fast as they were found, all within a matter of seconds. So we've been saying found means fixed is our mantra here, because it's not enough to simply identify vulnerabilities. Who here has a pile of vulnerabilities in their backlog? Some of you were brave enough to raise your hands, but I know that many of you have very large such piles. So the big impact really here is having the context and the solution to just go fix it immediately. So I want to now invite Xavier René-Corail on the stage, who leads GitHub Security Lab, to show you a little bit more in practice about how this works.
Hello, universe. Thanks, Mike, for the intro. I am Xavier René-Corail, Senior Director of Security Research, and with my team, the GitHub Security Lab, we help secure the open source software that we all depend on. I've spent the last 10 years of my career helping developers ship secure software. What I can tell you is that not every developer is a security expert, including here at GitHub. But that's fine. The pull request is here exactly for that. This is where you can leverage the security expertise from others, your peers, your security teams, and the community. Mike mentioned that at GitHub, our developers leverage code scanning and Copilot Autofix to bring the community's expertise to their fingers, to detect and remediate common vulnerabilities. Let me show you what that means. I will use a repository where my team creates educational examples of insecure code, so don't be afraid of what you'll see here. In this pull request, I'm implementing a basic Express server, allowing me to upload files. Just after the pull request creation, CodeQL detected a vulnerability uncontrolled data used in path expression. As a developer, not a security expert, I will ask Copilot Chat to explain this to me. So let's go here. Copilot Chat is aware of the whole context. My code, this pull request, and even this security alert. So hopefully, I will get a detailed answer with code examples. Here we go. So let's have a look at this answer. OK, I can see the impact. An attacker can manipulate this input to access unauthorized files or directories to the server. OK, and I can see how they can do it. By passing several dots to the path, they can go up to the root and then go everywhere, and they can access any directory on my server. OK, now I understand the bug. So now I can think of a fix. Lucky me, Copilot Autofix already suggested a fix. It adds a check to make sure that the directory I end up uploading my file in is contrived to the directory I'm supposed to stay in. Perfect. I can edit it, or if I'm happy with it, I can just go ahead and click Commit Suggestion, and boom. We've gone from a vulnerability found to a vulnerability fixed in a matter of seconds. That's for new code that you're writing. But what about existing code? Surely you have technical debt, right? OK, show of hands in the room. Who here never had to deal with technical debt? Oh, I saw one hand over there. OK, you're lucky, you're lucky. We do have technical debt at GitHub. And good news, Copilot Autofix can also accelerate the process of repaying your technical debt. Let me tell you how we manage this process across our CI/CD workflow. So here, I'm showing you a GitHub Actions workflow that, for each new issue created, it interacts with an AI chatbot to provide potential known solution to the author of the issue. For that, it uses an OpenAI secret key. A CodeQL alert tells me that this this workflow is vulnerable to code injection. Malicious code in the body of the issue can be executed on my server. For example, code that could leak my OpenAI secret. It's non-trivial to detect because, look, the body of the issue goes through several steps of this workflow, even to another workflow in another file. So this bug can sit on my backlog and stay unfixed for a while before I get the expert help from my security team to fix it. Not anymore. Now, I can come here and click on this button, Generate Fix, and Copilot Autofix comes to the rescue. Oh, here we go. What I love with this feature is that with Copilot Autofix, you can have a before-after on your own code, and this is very effective to learn about the insecure pattern and how to get it right next time. So here, what I see is that before, I was resolving whatever comes from the input when running the command. After, this is resolved before running the command and not anymore when running the command. This way, the code is not executed anymore. Again, I will just commit the suggestion because I'm happy with it, and I can move on to another item in my backlog. So how did this CI/CD review go for our GitHub Actions? As you can imagine, we have a lot of GitHub Actions workflows at GitHub. 8,500 across more than 10,000 repos. In 2 weeks of this effort, we fixed more than 600 vulnerabilities. 2 weeks, 600 vulnerabilities. Yeah, thank you. Beyond GitHub Actions, our internal usage of Copilot Autofix appeared to be very helpful for developers. First, when Copilot Autofix suggests a fix, our developers use it as in or with small tweaks half of the time. 2, the remediation rate. Only 47% of our security alerts are remediated in the pull request. When our developers use the suggestion, it goes up to 98%. And finally, look at the remediation time. It's 1 hour and 13 minutes without Autofix, and it drops to 11 minutes when developers actually use the suggestion. One interesting data point is that even when they don't use a suggestion, they choose a different solution. The simple fact that there is a suggestion drops the time to remediate to 22 minutes. Now, let's talk about open source. Code scanning and Copilot Autofix both source their security knowledge from the open source community, which is invaluable because, you will never find knowledge so rich and so diverse in-house. As the global home of the open source community, we firmly believe that it's very important to be both a responsible consumer and a contributor back to open source software. That's why we provide many of our security products at no cost to open source projects. Copilot Autofix is no exception. It's now available to all open source projects for free to help maintainers address security issues faster and easier. Yeah. And it works. In just 1 month, open source developers have used the Autofix suggestion half of the time, increasing the fix rate from 47 to 98%, and reducing the median remediation time from 70 to 20 minutes with Autofix. With the power of Copilot, developers can accelerate security review and remediation through all these phases in the IDE, in the pull request, and in the legacy code. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mike. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Xavier. The numbers on that are wild. I mean, the impact we're seeing just from our own internal use of AI with Copilot Autofix is incredible. And then also seeing the early adoption from maintainers now that we've made that available in public repositories, just incredible. I mean, stuff of dreams just a few years ago. With Copilot Autofix, we've really been able to realize this vision and this idea that found means fixed. And I'm really excited that we can now leverage AI to eradicate software vulnerabilities at scale, both for new code and, perhaps more importantly, that historical technical debt that exists in a matter of seconds. And you just saw Xavier demonstrate that. And Copilot Autofix, again, it's available today for every GitHub Advanced Security customer and now for any maintainer who can access it for free on any public repository. All right. I want to pull back the curtain a little bit on some of our other operations internally on how we share and build some of the security standards on the GitHub.com platform to run more of our security program. Once we deploy code and successfully merge it, there's tons of other magic that happens behind the scenes, like the GitHub Fundamentals program. Fundamentals is our program that helps us govern the security, availability, and accessibility properties across the thousands of repositories and the thousands of services that power all of GitHub and all of our internal tooling. And naturally, basically all of that is built and deployed on GitHub so that all of our developers who are already doing all of their work on GitHub can easily interact with those types of requirements as part of the Fundamentals program. I want to bring on Michael Rekachinas from our product security engineering team, who's going to come on stage and show you a little bit more about how this works as well.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Michael Rekachinas, a staff engineer in product security, and I lead development for tooling and static analysis to ensure our ships are secure. Ensuring our services adhere to security standards at scale is a challenge we all face, and manual processes simply don't cut it. Now, Xavier just showed you our effort to remediate over 600 GitHub Actions CodeQL alerts. Well, let me take you behind the scenes and show you how this was made possible and how our Fundamentals program played a key role in that success. So as Mike mentioned, Fundamentals is our governance program that ensures secure, high-quality code ships while fostering collaboration between our engineering and security teams. And Fundamentals is built around the 3 pillars: accessibility, availability, and security. Let's take a closer look at what makes up the security pillar. So we enforce these requirements of the pillar using scorecards, and we manage that through a tool we built internally called Service Catalog. And Service Catalog gives us the visibility into the health of our infrastructure and helps enforce security best practices. It's designed for everyone, from engineers who can see exactly what they need to do, to engineering leadership like Mike, who need a holistic view of the organization's security posture. All right, let's jump into Service Catalog now and take a look at the code scanning scorecard. All right, cool. Let's find the code scanning scorecard. We have a lot of scorecards. All right. So first, here's the overview of how we're doing right now. And you can see we're hanging steady, actually, at about 98, 99% of meeting all of our requirements. We can also look at the historical trends over the past 6 months. And again, you can see we've been hovering around that 97 to 99% mark. As you can imagine, it didn't always look like this. But thanks to our Fundamentals program, we've made significant progress by prioritizing key security improvements, driving collaboration and interdependence between security and engineering, and automating remediation efforts. All right, so next, I can drill down into an individual service and look at the code scanning scorecard there. So this is actually one of my team's services. You can see we have some action items that we need to get on. All right, let's look. Code scanning. All right, so right now we're doing okay, but we have some action items we need to address. Let's take a look at this one. So there again, it drops us back into .com, into GitHub, and we can just hit generate fix and get an auto fix, right? Found means fixed. And good thing we can use autofix here to resolve these quickly. And this is actually how we were able to resolve over 600 open code QL alerts in just 2 weeks. It's really a powerful example of how strong our security culture is. Because at GitHub, security isn't just a team's responsibility, it's woven into everything we do, from development to deployment. And this success inspired us to create security campaigns, a feature designed to automate security improvements across our entire code base. It worked for us internally, so we decided to turn it into a feature for you, enabling all teams to proactively manage security at scale. We applied the exact same recipe that worked for us. We mixed the detection and remediation capabilities of code scanning and Copilot Autofix with the governance and collaboration capabilities we found in Service Catalog and Fundamentals. So campaigns take us beyond visibility, allowing us to proactively remediate at scale, all while staying within the GitHub flow. And let me show you that new flow in security campaigns. Okay, so we're already in a campaign, and this is a campaign from the alerts that Xavier just showed you. So let's first group by repo, and then we'll take a look at an alert. And if we click on that alert, you can see Copilot has already suggested a fix. I haven't had to click generate fix. It's just already there in a campaign. It just creates it, which is awesome. Campaigns offer visibility for both managers and engineers and foster collaboration between security and engineering teams. What used to be done manually with scripts and spreadsheets is now integrated into a scalable, automated system within GitHub. And the best part? Security Campaigns is now in public preview as part of GitHub Advanced Security. OK. All of this automation through service catalog and security campaigns helps us ensure our code is secure. But once the code's secure, our next critical focus in security is managing access control and privileges. At GitHub, we recognize the need for a more efficient and compliant system to manage access across the organization. And that's why we built Entitlements, our open source, self-service, centralized authority for managing identity and access. Entitlements allows hubbers to request exactly the access they need, when they need it, all while maintaining strict compliance with our audit controls. And access requests are made via pull requests directly on GitHub itself. So we're literally managing GitHub through GitHub. Let me show you just how simple this process is. All right, so in Entitlements, we use the concept of a virtual team, or what we call a pizza team. So for example, there's already a pizza team set up for the speakers in Mike's talk tonight for dinner. But it looks like Mike's the only one currently on the team. So I'm going to go ahead and add Whitney, Xavier, and myself, because I hear Mike's picking up the tab. Oh, wrong one. Let's try this one. There we go. All right, cool. We're going to commit that. OK, and then we need to just add a justification. I think that did it. Perfect. Let's look at the preview. OK, and create the pull request. So once Mike approves this PR, the requested access is granted instantly, ensuring that only the right people have the right access at the right time. We found Entitlements so valuable, we decided to open source it for everyone. And you can check it out at gh.io/entitlements and try it out for yourself. And with that, I'll pass it back to Mike.
All right, thanks, Michael. And I just approved your pull request on GitHub Mobile, so I will see you at dinner. Now, as you can see, GitHub is not just leading with best-of-breed tools, but also best-of-breed practices as well. And we really do pride ourselves on making sure that we are actually the best customer zero of our own products to make sure that we really try to integrate everything that we learn about everything that we do and everything that we build into the product. And that's really all with the aim of making sure that we have the most delightful developer experience possible, while also making sure that we've just got that really high bar for security. And whether you're here as a maintainer of an open source project, or if you're here as a student, or you're one of our customers, everything that we shared today is available to you to help you securely build on GitHub. And I really want to stress that security is foundational to everything that we do at GitHub. In today's environment, especially if you are sitting in this room right now or watching this on stream, I hope that it's foundational to you as well. And when you look at bringing some of the tools or some of the practices that we just talked about into your own process, I do want to leave you with 3 things to think about. First and foremost, good security starts with the developer. You can make process and tool decisions that are good for developers and good for security. These 2 things are not mutually exclusive. And by focusing on making sure that you've got a great developer experience, you can actually make security stronger in that same process. Second, AI is completely redefining the industry term of shifting security left. And we're really bringing security expertise to every single developer in an easy-to-use way and really at every step of the software development lifecycle. When you look at some of these AI native experiences that we've talked about, like Copilot Autofix or security campaigns, we're really making sure that developers are getting significantly closer to completely eradicating software vulnerabilities, both in all their new code and in all of their historical code. And finally, security culture eats security strategy for breakfast. I know it's after lunch now. We could have said eats it for lunch. But democratizing security in your organization, it's essential that you build that supportive company culture that's anchored in transparency and collaboration. often say that the security team can't be the department of no. You have to be the department of yes and. Now remember, security is a team sport. It's not a trade secret. At GitHub, we're going to continue to share best practices like this and openly discuss what works well for us in hopes that it actually helps all of you, our customers, and the open source community to improve your security as well. I want to thank you again so much for joining us today. I can't wait to see how you adopt some of the things that we talked about today within your own teams to help securely build the next big thing on GitHub. Thank you, and have a great rest of GitHub Universe.